All right, first-time guest Cedric Shine joins me. What's up, Ced? Hot take to start the show. What you got?
This is flaming hot. This is fresh off the press.
Okay.
But I think Jalen Brunson will be an all-star this year, and one of Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland will not.
Wow, you know what? That would be heaven for a Knicks fan. I would absolutely love that. I would love that. I like Jalen a lot. We're going to get into that, though. More of that next on The Dime.
You are now listening to The Dime with Josh Rodriguez, your weekly go-to podcast for all things NBA. And now, your host, Josh Rodriguez.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Dime, presented by the Ballislife Podcast Network. Draymond Green is back with the Warriors. Zion Williamson returns with high expectations. And just what are the New York Knicks? My guest and I dive deep into New York's offseason, hit up NBA Twitter, and play a GM survey edition of For Real or Fugazi. But first, if you want to follow The Dime, you can on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, at The Dime NBA. I'm Josh Rodriguez, at Josh_Rodriguez_. All episodes going forward will be broadcasted on the Ballislife Podcast Network YouTube channel. So if you're watching, welcome. Hello, how you doing? If you're a loyal Dime audio listener, please head over to the Ballislife Podcast Network, subscribe, hit the notification button so you're subscribed and you get all these notifications on when we are broadcasting our episodes. And check out the latest episodes of The Dime. And, you know, Rennie Cruz has a podcast. Zach Noble has a podcast on the network. So we're bringing you a bunch of stuff from the Ballislife Podcast Network. Give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, leave a review if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for me to introduce to you my guest. He is a Knicks content creator and a co-host for Knicks Chatter the day after and live from the Mecca on Twitter Spaces. Everybody, please welcome to The Dime, Cedric Shine. Cedric.
Yeah.
What's good, baby? Bringing the heat right away. I love it.
Give you some New York energy. Let's go. Let's rock.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I met Ced. We met one time in person. It was after a Knick game. We were Twitter friends, and I tweeted I was going to a Knick game. He was going to be there. We went up at a bar afterwards. It was pretty dope, man.
And we lost that game, but me and you still had a good night.
No, we won that game. That was an RJ Barrett buzzer beater.
Oh, that was a buzzer beater game? Okay.
That was an RJ Barrett buzzer beater.
All right. Yep. I had the yellow hat on. Okay. I thought it was different. There was a lot of losses in January. I knew it was in January.
Yeah. January was bad.
That buzzer beater, man. That's my number one sports experience in person.
That was wild. That was wild, man. That was my first Knick game in like 5 or 6 years. I moved out to LA.
Yeah.
So that's the first game that I saw at the Garden in a really long time. I mean,
okay, yeah. That was a moment.
All right, man. Let's get into the show. Let's hit up some NBA Twitter takes.
Did you just? I can't believe. Yes, you really tweeted that out. NBA Twitter, you are undefeated.
Yes, it's NBA Twitter. This is where I take a stroll down the hellhole. That is NBA Twitter. I grabbed 3 tweets that popped up on my timeline, and Cedric and I are here to discuss them. First, David Meredith at DMeredith28 says, I am not sure how the Warriors don't suspend Draymond Green. I think that's disrespectful to Jordan Poole. That was not a regular practice scuffle/fight. Cedric, everybody knows about this Draymond situation. We're Knicks fans, but we got to talk about this.
Yeah.
How do you think the Warriors handle this?
Honestly, the Warriors, I think, tend to deal with their drama, if there is any drama. If you remember the Draymond KD situation from a few years ago, yeah. I think they typically deal with it well. This one is a bit of a black eye, and I say that because they seemed more upset about the video getting out than what transpired at practice, and then to find Draymond and not suspend him when I believe he got suspended for the KD argument, right?
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, he was suspended for that. So it just feels like who's running the show over there? Like, who is? I don't know. It's out of character for them to seem this out of control to me.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. I mean, you have to enforce some type of penalty here. I don't see why you wouldn't. This is the beginning of the season. The Warriors are playing for a championship, obviously. So all that really matters to them is end game, right? So if you suspend Draymond for 5, even like 10 games in the beginning of the season, is that really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things? You're sending a message to your team saying, hey, this behavior is not tolerated. You showed Jordan Poole you have his back. I just don't understand what the reasoning behind not doing it was. And to your point, yeah, they seemed like just more pissed off that TMZ got their hands on the video. It seemed very un-Warriors-like. And I do wonder who's running the show there. Like, what do you like? Do you have any speculation as to like conversations or what's going on there?
I'm by no means tapped in with the Warriors community. I've seen their fans. Their fans are upset, and their fans are like diehards. Like they stick by Bob Myers. And so what I'll say though is I think to your point, the Warriors have championship aspirations, and I think Draymond he's been seeming like a bit of a problem child of late, right? And I think they just want to kind of like get through this year. And if they suspended him and the video is out and like, does it look like they're coming down too hard on him? He was very upset about the way they came down on him with KD. I don't know what was going on in the background. Was Jordan pumping up a lot? Like, so I think it's more like they really can't handle Draymond, right? And so they're not gonna trade him, right? Like they're not gonna. So they just kind of had to, kind of eat their shoes.
Man, that's weird, man. To eat your shoes over Draymond, if I'm being honest with you. I get it, though. I mean, he's a very
important ship last year without Draymond, even though he disappeared for like 2 games.
No, they don't. I mean, they don't. And honestly, you could say if he doesn't kick whoever in the nuts when they blew the 3-1 lead, that they win that championship too. I mean, he's a very important piece. But also like the dynamics of the fact that he basically he knocked out who's next, right? Jordan Poole's next. He's going to be a franchise cornerstone.
Is Jordan Poole next?
I think he is. Yeah. I mean, I don't put him on the level as like Steph at all. I mean, I'm not on him as like, Warriors Twitter's crazy with him. I like Jordan Poole.
You said franchise cornerstone.
Yeah,
right?
I think
like
he
he's doing amazing in that system, right?
Yeah.
But like if you put Jordan Poole, is Jordan Poole the best player on the Knicks? Like
no,
elevate the Knicks?
No, I don't think so. But I do think that, like, for instance, like Draymond, you could put Draymond on like 20 different teams on a league and he's not Draymond Green.
I hear you.
He works for that system. I think Jordan Poole works for that system as well. Like, I'll take RJ over Jordan. Like, I'll fight a Warriors fan. I don't care. But I do think he is.
And I like Jordan Poole. So I don't want it to seem like I'm hating him. It just when you said franchise cornerstone, I was like, for the Warriors, right? Like, I don't know if that's everywhere.
For the just for the Warriors, man. I'm not saying like he's gonna sign a max with the Magic and all of a sudden they're a 4 seed. That ain't happening. Man, I'm really disappointed with the Warriors, man, because they seem like an organization that's got their shit together. And with this, it just seems like they completely dropped the ball. This is not an argument. This is not like a scuffle. This is not like something with KD. This is like he knocked him out. Like he could have really hurt this dude.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen like Rudy Tomjanovich back in the, I don't know, it was 80s or 70s, but he got hit in the head. He hasn't been the same for the rest of his life. I'm not saying that,
the Warriors have been blessed that they have Steph Curry. Steph Curry is, the popular, the prom queen. He's homecoming king. Like, I mean, he's just so friendly as a face of your organization. So I think the drama that they do have, we don't see normally because they've got this boyish looking man who is amazing. He's an amazing guy. I mean, he's God-fearing. He's like he's just amazing.
Yeah.
And here because I'm not sure that they really handled the Draymond Kevin thing that great, but they did suspend, right? So it's like, okay, look, we're showing you we care about Kevin, and I think the only thing is you're hearing that Poole was cool with it, and who wouldn't be? He's embarrassed. Please, I've gotten beat up before, right? Like I've lost some fights. They're not on video. Like if somebody is here saying like, "Yo, somebody got hit," like I don't want to be on TMZ
right, every day.
You know what I'm saying? Like Jordan. If I'm Jordan, I gotta brush it off too. Like it ain't nothing. Yeah, he can come back. But like we'll see. And I think Nat, who's a big Warriors person on Twitter, Nat, she's talked about when you have to work with somebody you don't like. That's not as easy as people think, and we'll really know what's going on when we start seeing them play together.
Yeah, and there's gonna be some ramifications, right? I mean, you saw what happened. That was the beginning of the end with KD. It really was.
Yeah,
I mean, once that argument happened, everyone just started talking about KD leaving, and it ended up happening. So who knows what the ramifications of this is going to be? But you're right. That makes
Draymond wanted a max. Draymond is already like he's out the window because what is Draymond now? Like 33?
Yeah, he's getting up there.
That he thinks he even deserves a max in this climate when he's putting up triple singles. And I'm not saying that he doesn't do a lot for the team, but it's just like if everybody's saying know your role, well,
Yeah.
your role is not a max player on this team. So go get that TNT money, go get the, the clutch money, go get all the different types of endorsement money you can get. But like, this team would be at a serious disadvantage to give you a max. They're already overpaying Klay Thompson.
It's a good point, man. Good point. Let's move on to the next tweet. It comes from Jake Madison, and he says, yeah, I'm not worried at all about anything with Zion after this preseason set. I'm not really sure if you were able to catch some Pelican games. I saw a game against the Bulls. He looked really good. I don't know what his numbers are. To me, that's not important. I think preseason, there's different objectives for different teams. And the Pelicans, to me, is just basically, let's just see how Zion looks. Let's make sure he's healthy. And let's make sure that he can fit in with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum and see how that works. And I'm really excited to see Zion. I'm not worried about him either. I think I watched the game for like 10, 15 minutes and I came away with it like, okay, he's fine. He's good to go. He had one move where he's back to the basket, spin move, dunk baseline. That's literally all I needed to see. I don't really care if he's hitting his shots or not. What do you think of Zion? Are you expecting a big year, or are you someone who, a lot of people are like, well, his weight's a factor and I don't think he's ever going to be healthy. Where do you fall on that argument?
I'm not on that side of the equation. I think Zion is a generational player. I think he's had a rough start to the NBA, but I'm not worried about him at all. He's lost a lot of weight. He looks good. He seems like he's in a better place mentally, and I think that we don't talk about that enough. Where you are at mentally, as well as where you're at physically. So he seems like he's in a much better place than he was. I think the biggest thing I'd be worried about for this Pelicans team is their defense.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like CJ McCollum is not a strong defender. Zion is not a strong defender. Brandon Ingram is not a strong. That's 3 non-defenders in your starting 5. Don't get me wrong, a lot of offensive power. But I think that, when we start talking about them making a real run, which is what people are saying, I think that defense, it needs to step up. Herb Jones can't do everything.
That's true, man. And, that was my next question to you is like, where do you think the Pelicans finish in the West? The West is very competitive. You have the Warriors, you have the Grizzlies, you still have the Suns, maybe, who knows?
Maybe.
The Mavs. Where do you think they are?
Wait, the Mavs? Nah.
Listen, the Mavs made the Western Conference Finals last year. I would have said the same thing. You know what I mean? So, to me, as long as you have like Luka, Giannis, Steph, you're always in the conversation at some point.
The Mavs making the Western Conference Finals is very much like when the Hawks made the Eastern Conference Finals. Like everything went their way. Everything they faced Utah, who was imploding. I don't know what the Suns did in that game 7.
They imploded.
They imploded. So but I think if you talk to Mavs fans, they're worried because Spencer Dinwiddie post injury is like so. They're getting Hardaway back. Hardaway as a Knicks fan, streaky shooter. Reggie Bullock can't dribble. And I love Reggie. I can't dribble either. I just want to be clear to everybody here that I'm saying this, but I cannot dribble at all. So I'm saying for what he's going up against, he does not dribble very well. So I don't know, man. I think the Pelicans have an opportunity to be a top 4 seed. And you didn't mention the Clippers, and I think the Clippers are really going to be nasty coming out the West.
Yeah, I don't know if I put the Pelicans up there yet. I think they're a 6 seed that can be dangerous if that makes any sense, if they catch the right team at the right moment. For instance, like how the Mavs caught the Suns. But I wouldn't put them over the Clippers, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, even. But they're interesting, man. They have a lot of players that I like. So,
but that's 4 though. But that's 4 because I'm not taking the Mavs over the Pelicans.
What about the Suns? Right now. What about the Suns?
DeAndre Ayton don't talk to his coach. Chris Paul seems to still have beef with DeAndre Ayton. I don't have no faith in them right now.
It's panic time in Phoenix, baby. I don't trust in the Suns either, bro.
The owner is out here telling the team because he's a racist, sexist.
Right. Oh, but it's a freaking it's wild over there in Phoenix. Let's move on to the next tweet, man. Let's move on to the next tweet. Okay. It comes from Sean Hyken. He's a writer for the Blazers, and he said, this might be recency bias, but it feels like people are drawing more definitive conclusions from preseason games this year than they usually do. I don't know if it's because I'm more involved with NBA Twitter, but I agree with this. I mean, especially on Knicks Twitter, man, we're talking about Obi needs to start immediately. Screw Julius. You saw what Obi did against Indiana. There's no reason why he should be getting 30 minutes a game, maybe even starting. Jalen Brunson is him. He comes in, we have a point guard. Look at us. Like, it just seems like, just from my own perspective on Knicks Twitter, that we're doing it. I'm assuming everybody else is doing it. Yeah. Do you think that people are taking preseason more seriously and making more definitive conclusions than they usually do?
I think in general, over the last 5 years, preseason and summer league have way more eyes than they ever have. And so there's a lot more chatter. I think everybody says the same thing, Sean with the W, Sean Hardy, who's my co-host on Live from the Mecca. He's like, first rule of summer league: don't take summer league seriously. Second rule of summer league, right? And it's the same way with preseason. It's funny that Sean Hiken, he is on the beat, I guess, for the Trailblazers. I wonder how the Trailblazers are playing, because I feel like teams that are doing poorly in preseason, everybody's like, oh, but it's preseason. But like if the Knicks were out here getting blown out in preseason, it'd be like they're about to win 21 games. So it cuts both ways.
Well, the Blazers, they got the doors blown off them yesterday by the Warriors C squad, so not doing too well. Nothing seems to have changed there in Portland. But listen, as a Knicks fan, they were undefeated last year. They're undefeated this year. We're recording before tonight's game, so who knows what happens tonight?
Yeah.
But we saw what happened last year, man. They played the Wizards last year, and I remember like definitively going to my phone and be like, I'm taking the Knicks over because they look ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it just didn't turn out that way. Let's move on to Jalen. Actually, I want to build off of that because they signed him in the offseason. We're moving our conversation over to the Knicks. What's your first impression of him? I mean, I guess you were going to leave there, but what do you see so far in the preseason? What do you think he can do for the team?
Yeah, you know what I like about Jalen? He's a leader. Like, he's a leader of men. You hear him talk about it. He talks about you can't treat everybody the same. You can't talk to everybody the same. People take messages differently. And I find that to be inspiring. Like that here's somebody who knows how to work, right? Has a championship pedigree, knows how to win. And he seems like he really puts it out there on the floor. I'm grateful that he's coming in and he's about the work. Like Jalen Brunson is not. You won't have the Marbury issues with Jalen Brunson. Right?
I hope not. I really hope not.
Like Jalen just got engaged. Like Jalen is out here with his dog. You know what I'm saying? Like Jalen's not about to be outside of Sin City getting into mess, right? But no, I just I love when you see this guy getting the paint and he's hitting his little shots and his footwork. I mean, like, that's stuff we have not had. So if you're excited about the Knicks, be excited, because we have not had somebody who can get in the paint, who can to Tom Thibodeau's point, make the proper rim reads, etc. Right. We haven't had it, and it's nice to have.
Yeah, I agree. I'm always somebody, maybe I overvalue point guards a little bit, but I've always been the one who say, like, if you have a solid point guard, or the point guard position is such an important position to have, I don't think it's a coincidence that CP3 goes over to Phoenix and they make the NBA finals, or, they were the best team in the regular season. They employed and whatnot, but you get my point. The Knicks, we were starting Alec Burks at point guard last year, which is, he was the worst starting point guard in the league, not because he's a bad player, but just because he's not a point guard.
It was such a disservice to him, man. Shout out to Burks, man. Shout out to AB.
Love him, man.
Used to get us buckets, man. He would turn into Michael Jordan at the end of games, right?
Right.
And then Tom Thibodeau put him in a losing position. He is not a point guard by any stretch. Right. And he was not a point guard. It was terrible.
No. And it affected him. It affected the team.
Yeah.
Julius now feels like and I'm not a Julius apologist. We can talk about Julius later, but now Julius feels like he has to do more with the basketball when he gets it. RJ may not be put out of position. He has to work harder for buckets. It just affects everything. When you have a point guard who can stabilize an offense, who can direct the flow of an offense, it makes everybody's job easier. And I don't think basketball fans really understand how big of an improvement Jalen Brunson is to what the Knicks used to have. I think a lot of NBA fans are like, oh, it's just Jalen Brunson. Yeah, he's a nice player.
Second round pick.
It's
whatever.
It's nice, whatever.
Cool.
But they don't understand the upgrade that we just got. I mean, and like you said, 37 games. We won 37 games last year.
37
without a point guard.
Without a point guard, with our second unit lead guard going down. I mean, everything that could happen was happening. But I want to jump back if there's time, unless you want to wait to the end of the show about the hot take. Yeah. The reason why I made that take, and I don't think it's as hot as the people that are listening are going to hear it. What we saw when the Knicks were a 4th seed with Julius Randle getting the MIP, most improved player, and Tom Thibodeau getting the coach of the year, if you can stabilize the Knicks and have this team playing good basketball, it's going to get the attention of everybody in the league. There's going to be way more eyes watching. Right. This is the larger fan base. We're going to vote it up. We're going to run it up. I want you to know, you think Andrew Wiggins got in? We're going to call BTS too. All right. We're going to run it up. And so I say that to say Donovan Mitchell was having a tough time making the All-Star in Utah, not because of his talent. I love him. I wanted Spider on the team. but it was because he was in this small market, right? Now in the East, you got DeJounte Murray was just an all-star. Trae Young, James Harden is still here. Kyrie Irving is still here, right? So Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and I think that if Jalen can do what we think he can do, and that's not saying we're the number one in the East, no, but that's stabilizing, good play. You know, his numbers are going to be there. They're going to be there because he's one of the best offensive players on his team. That will get more notoriety than two guards in Cleveland, and that's a fact.
Man, I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to talk about somebody who a lot of Knicks fans are high on and think he can make an all-star game as well. And that's RJ Barrett, signed a 4-year, $120 million extension in the offseason. What are your expectations for him, man? I mean, a lot of people want him to be the main focal point of the offense. A lot of people think he can be an all-star. He's constantly disrespected with these 25 players under 25 lists. What are your thoughts on RJ? I think you and I kind of have the same thoughts on him. I've been on your spaces before, but I kind of want to
RJ is a victim of a few things. One, he plays in New York.
Yeah.
2, he's the number 3 pick. 3, he came behind Zion and Ja.
Yeah.
Right. And so from there, the expectations are just out of the room, right? Because if RJ was in Cleveland, they would have gave him a max. Like, they would not have let that go. They wouldn't have been willing to let that go to restricted free agency. That's why it was smart that they locked up Darius Garland. So RJ's gotten better every year. I'm not a fan who I believe that RJ is a cornerstone of this team, but I don't think that he has to be this perennial all-star. He has the work ethic. He wants to get there. I think that there's improvements that he needs to make to his game to get there. I think it's really tough in the East. You know, he plays a 3. And so that, you know, they put all the forwards together, like, you know what I mean? So it's hard, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard, but you know, obviously the shot is looking good. And preseason, we remember 2 seasons ago, he shot 40% from 3. I think if he can get back up to even league average, 37%, I think that'll be huge. If he doesn't make the All-Star team this year, I'm not upset. But if, you know, if we continue to see him making, you know, his playmaking gets better, he's clearly going to be a focal point of the offense. So I'm excited. I'm excited for RJ. And I like that he said last week, don't nobody like us anyway. He basically had the F him vibe, because I've always felt like RJ's been too nice. And I'm like, yo, we here for you. Like let us do your bidding, right? Yeah. They fronting on you on every list. You know, always talk about. So stop trying to be nice. Get that Canada Toronto mess out of here. Give him some energy. Give him that 125th Street vibes. Give him that Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Go to the Bronx on him.
Yeah, I love it, baby. I like RJ a lot too. He's, and just for the record, like I've said on the show, I mean, they're in that draft. I wasn't high on him at all coming out of college. There were just some things that I saw this time in Duke that I didn't really like. But for someone to have me change their mind about them, that means he's doing something right, because I'm very stubborn. And RJ does a lot right. You know, I think he plays the game smart. He's high IQ. He doesn't really force a lot of bad shots, which, you know, I appreciate from someone who can score 20 plus a game. That's important to me. I mean, high volume is high volume, but if you're taking dumb shots, those are turnovers. And RJ doesn't really do that too much. I think a lot of Knicks fans are too high on him, though. Just temper expectations a little bit. He's definitely a franchise cornerstone. We were talking about Jordan Poole being one, but RJ is one as well. Doesn't mean that we have to build around him. It doesn't mean that he has to be the main focal point. Maybe this year we can see how he does. But I think Knicks fans make the mistake where they're like, okay, we need to build everything around this guy, when to me, that's not necessarily the case. He's just kind of a piece that in the grand scheme of things, if the Knicks ever win a championship, he's probably going to be our 3rd best player.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad, it's a fantastic thing, though. I think it's a great thing to have.
I think the reality is, you know, we've been so unlucky, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a fact. We've been so unlucky as a franchise that here we have a hardworking young kid who's getting better every year. So yes, people are jumping out the window on it, right? Like, you know, me, Sean, I hate Sean from the Knicks wall. You know, we go back and forth all the time. I love Sean, man. He's such
good vibes, man.
Sean's got a lot of energy. Sean's got a lot of energy. And me and Sean, before we had a show together, because we do KCDA together with Julito, we would go back and forth on Twitter. Once we got a show together, I mean, our bouts are legendary. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because he goes, you know,
he loves RJ. That's his favorite Knick. That's his favorite Knick of all time. So
is it really?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm tweeting at. Yeah.
All right, well. God bless him. Yo, John Starks is my favorite Knick, so I mean, I get it.
Same. But I knew John Starks wasn't like,
yeah, he was not the
but
best.
To build around Starks,
he's just my favorite.
Trade Patrick Ewing, like I was on that.
Not rolling. John Starks out here headbutting people. It's a real nut job when you think about it.
Yeah, he was fucking crazy, but I loved it. Speaking of trading cornerstones, Julius Randle has been the topic of discussion for Knicks fans. A lot of Knicks fans want him gone, basically. There's some value that he probably could bring back to the team. Yeah. A lot of people saw the way he played last year and just completely turned him off. How do you think this plays out? Do you think that Julius outstayed his welcome in New York?
I mean, I think when you have even people like Alan Hahn and Bill Pito talking about how sensitive Julius is, this just may not be the city for him, right? Like, and I think that's just a real thing. And you know, he showed very poor leadership skills last year. Yeah. So outside of just having bad play, he wasn't a good leader on the floor. He's obviously looking better this year in preseason, right? He's moving without the ball. And so he's still a talented guy, right? Like he's still a very talented player. Yeah. It almost sometimes feels like he wants to be Kevin Durant rather than being Julius Randle. And so it's like, look, man, you're I think Kobe called him a bull in a china shop. Like, yo, go get down there. You're stronger than all these guys. You know, Julius with a full head of steam, there's not a lot of people that can stop him. So if he can play, you know, the better parts of his game, I think it'll contribute to winning. I think Jalen being here is like, my God, just takes such a load off and will help organize them and help get people in the right position. And I think that'll be super helpful for him. So it's one of those things where it's like Julius will go as far as his attitude will take him. You know what I mean? His attitude will determine his altitude. I had to get real teacher on you with it.
I like it.
You know, because the fans are mad, right? But the fans, the fans to go F themselves. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I get it. It's New York, and that's that energy. But like, you can't be sucking and then telling somebody to go F themselves, because then they're gonna give you that back full speed. But if you, because I was at that game.
We were both. Yeah, we were both at that game. Yeah.
You know, when he did that, everybody was cheering. But like, it was late. It's like if somebody talk bad about you and then an hour later you try to get mad. It's like, bro, we was over all 11 bricks he was throwing up. Like, we try to win this game. So I think if he has a good attitude, I think he's definitely going to take a dip in points this year.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's bad. If he's giving you 18 and 10, what's wrong with that?
Nothing.
I mean, John Collins would love those numbers, and y'all love John Collins.
Wow, they love John Collins. There's nothing wrong with that, man. And to your point, you brought up John Starks. I mean, John Starks shot 2 for 18 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Yeah. I mean, he shot the Knicks out of the finals. Yeah. And he's treated by Knicks fans as a legend because he played his ass off and because he tried.
Yeah, hard.
And I don't think Julius realizes, or maybe some people don't realize, that the reason why Knicks fans have turned against Julius isn't so much because of the poor performance. Knicks fans can forgive poor performance. What we can't forgive is a lack of heart, not getting back on defense, not rotating on defense, not going up for a rebound, yelling at your teammates, yelling at your coaches. That's what's turning Knicks fans off from Julius. It's not so much the
entitled vibe. He had a very entitled vibe. And I look at Julius like this. So the first year, I didn't like him. I was like, yo, this guy's the turnover.
We all
like, what is this dude doing? Right. Yeah. Second year he comes back. He's amazing. He's a toast of the town. And he said something in one of these preseason interviews where he says, you know, when it's going good, it's easy to be a leader. It's about when it's going tough. And it's like, because we saw you in 2 separate seasons, in the first season and the third season, when it wasn't going good. You were not a joy to have on this team, right? RJ has been here all 3 of those years and has never gotten any of that backlash, right?
Right.
Because he always is professional and
he never done anything wrong. RJ has done nothing wrong. Nothing.
He's endeared himself to the fans. Yeah. Julius Fat Joe told Julius he could be the mayor of the city, like he's the king of New York. So I feel like he smelled his own height. Yeah. And I think the one thing you can never do is smell your own height. Yeah. Because when you come down, and everybody's waiting for you to come down, unfortunately, you fall a little bit harder. But I do think that there's some promise for him this season. What I would be worried about is if he's doing really well, we want to see Obi get more playing time. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like I don't look at preseason and say Obi needs to play 30 minutes. But I think if you take a guy 8 and we do see that there's a lot of untapped potential there, and you leave him behind Julius, it just seems like a mismanagement of assets. Yeah. So like I would love for him to get his value up and be out at the deadline.
Yeah. So to me, like Obi, for instance, like a lot of that has to do with Thibs, and I'll move the discussion over to Thibs. Thibs has to get creative with lineups. It can't just be like, okay, well, you play when Julius needs a rest. Like, we can go small with Obi. Like, why can't Obi play to 5? Especially if Obi's hitting the 3 the way he was towards the end of the season, and if he's hitting the 3 like he was against Indiana, you got to find minutes for Obi. You can't just bury him on the bench because he's behind Julius Randle. You got to get creative with your lineups, and that's that's the beef that a lot of Knicks fans have with Thibs. He's not creative enough with his lineups, and he doesn't have a lot of imagination offensively.
Yeah.
Do you think that he's on the hot seat this year? Do you think that the Knicks underperform? This might be his last year.
I mean, I definitely think if the Knicks underperform, it's over for him. I don't see how he keeps his job. I don't see without Leon basically putting himself on a very hot seat, because I think Dolan will let him fire a coach and bring another coach in. But if they turn around and it's 2 years in a row of underperforming, mismanagement of assets, mismanagement of the roster, I think Leon's seat is hot, and I think Thibs is gone.
You think Leon's seat's hot too? Really?
I think so, because it's not like it's not like these aren't the moves that Leon has made. Like Leon has come in to be this wheeler and dealer. Thibs didn't think that his was crazy. Thibs didn't think he was going to have the team he had for that fourth seed season. He thought they were going to make trades. They weren't even going to make those picks. He was expecting to bring better players, and Derrick Rose was supposed to get traded to us before preseason. But then other moves were supposed to be made. Didn't happen. I think what Leon has done is try to like serve two masters, and at some point you got to pick a side. And last year they did a terrible job of picking a side and valuing, developing some of the young players more.
Yeah,
Alec Burks played more minutes in the second half of the season than Giannis.
That's ridiculous.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's
and it's not like you didn't have Emmanuel quickly on the bench who could handle the ball for a little bit. Like, I think that's
the mismanagement of the roster.
Yeah, that's the frustration, because I'm not as down on Thibs as a lot of Knicks fans are, but I understand why Knicks fans are, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
you have someone like Emmanuel quickly who's just kind of, and he did have a bad stretch. Let's not kid ourselves. Emmanuel was bad for about a month or so. And I understand that, but he's also a second-year player, and he's also someone who can alleviate the pressure of Alec Burks bringing the ball up. You see, it's not working. Let Emmanuel work through it. He's a young player. Let him work out of that slump. And that's my problem with
Burks had multiple games with like 1 assist, 0 assists.
Yeah.
So it's not like, from a playmaking standpoint, it's not like, it's not like Burks was lighting it up, and that's why you continue to roll with him. But what I'll say is this: I've never been a fire Thibs guy. I wasn't on that bandwagon, and partially because just trying to respect some continuity. I think that people forget that matters. What I will say is as far as Thibs is concerned is, to your point, I need him to be a little bit more creative. I need him to, I know he values rim protection, but sometimes I don't know that he's progressing the way as fast as the league is, right?
Exactly.
And even still in preseason, we're still not defending a 3 well, right? And everybody's shooting threes. So I get protecting the paint, but protect the perimeter. Part of why we did so well in 2021 is because people were missing an alarming amount of threes against us, right? Yeah. It wasn't because we were doing so well. Like they were, so. When I saw him the other night at preseason, and he was yelling at the refs, and we was up like 20. It warmed my heart. I love Thibs. I was like, because to me it's F the refs, right? Yeah. So I was like, Thibs getting his.
I like Thibs, man. I don't love him. I'm not attached to him. If he goes after this year, he goes. But I do agree with you with some type of stability, man. I mean, when was the last time we had any type of stability at the head coaching position? I mean, the last time we had a chance to have that was at Woody, and then he had a bad season after the 52 game win season, so then he's gone, and it's
with a ton of injuries, mind you. Phil Jackson
so it's so it's like, what do we like? I understand Thibs, might be a hard ass. He's not creative on the offensive end. I understand that he's not the perfect coach. He might be the coach. He might be the Mark Jackson to the Steve Kerr, if that makes any sense, and that's fine. But I'm not willing to just cut him loose without a game
and
plan.
everybody wants Johnny Bryant, right? Like,
I don't know what Johnny. I like Johnny. Everything I hear about Johnny Bryant sounds good. I mean, he seems like a cool guy. The players seem to like him, but I don't know what his X's and O game is like.
I have no idea. I have no idea. Like, nice guy. He seems like he's the guard whisperer, right? Like, I got you.
Right. Johnny Bryant. Like, I could understand if he was like, I like Kenny Atkinson because I know what Kenny Atkinson can do with young players.
Yeah.
That's who I would like. And he can handle, I mean, Brooklyn's different. I mean, it's not New York, so I'm not going to say he can handle New York, but you know,
remember he was an assistant under D'Antoni, I believe.
There we go.
Yeah. So he knows the garden.
There we go. All right. So with all that said, what are your expectations for the Knicks this year? They won 37 games last year without a point guard. I took the over personally. The over is 39.5.
Oh yeah.
I think, you know, I listen, I don't think they're going to win the Eastern Conference. I don't think they're threats to win the Eastern Conference, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on what this team could be. I think this is a team that, especially with Thibs coaching, and this is why I like Thibs, this is a team like you're going to have to knock out or go hard against every night. You cannot rest when you see the New York Knicks on your schedule. And I think they're going to catch a lot of teams sleeping. And as long as they don't lose games like to the freaking Orlando Magic at home twice, if they can clean that up a little bit, I think this team can win like low 40s. I have them winning 43 games this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm between 43 and 45.
Okay.
43 and 45 games. Listen, man, I watched us piss away a good 10 to 12 games last year. Yep. Like I said, we had 37 wins, right? Now, look, you can't get all of those, but you could get 6 of those. And you know what I mean? And that's at least 43. I mean, do you remember? I don't want to give you bad dreams, but the Portland game, the OKC game, both Nets games, like I mean, up double digits, and you're sitting in the crowd and you're like, this ain't gonna work. Like I know this ain't gonna work. Like like it looks good. Right. The Lakers game, I mean, I could go on.
Yeah.
The Phoenix game. Where with Cam Johnson hit the dagger.
Yep. Yeah.
How many games I just named just now? I just named like 6 games.
And the ones that haunt me more are like the Magic, man. Like, how do you listen to them?
Yeah, that was nasty.
Come on.
But you know what? They were mad because we had gone down to Orlando on Friday and tore them up at their house. And it was like we were a home team because there was a bunch of Knicks fans there.
Yeah, but we lost twice to them, bro.
I know, but that first one, they were pissed off. like, Ross came in there acting a fool. Anthony was like, I'm from New York. You're not going to disrespect me. Like, they were pissed off on that one. I don't know how they lost the next one, but they were pissed off on that.
All right, so we on to the final segment of the show. It's called For Real or Fugazi.
For real or fugazi? Are they the real thing, or are they a fraudulent entity not dignified enough to be inserted into the conversation?
Yes, it's For Real or Fugazi, the GM survey edition. I scrolled through the preseason GM survey and picked out some interesting conclusions made by the majority of NBA GMs. Cedric and I will deem these conclusions either for real or Fugazi. And the first conclusion that they have come up to is Luka Doncic will win the 2023 MVP. And boy, those NBA GMs, that NBA media, they love Luka, don't they?
Love. You've never seen love like this before.
You never see love like the NBA media loves Luka Doncic. MVP, for real, Fugazi.
It's Fugazi.
Fugazi. It's Fugazi, man. They want it so bad.
They've been saying it for 2 years.
Stop trying to
make the third year in a row that they're saying this.
Right. It's gonna be the league year 9.
I do think that Luka will win an MVP at some point in his career, but it won't be until Mark Cuban gets serious about building a team around him. We talked about this a little bit earlier. I don't think that they have a particularly good team around him. Yes, he is a generational talent, but think about it. LeBron was a generational talent, and Cleveland was not doing right by him in terms of building a contender around him. He ended up leaving. I'm not saying that Luka's going to leave, but I'm saying is that you can't get to your full potential playing in the way that they're currently playing. I think Kidd did a great job as coach last year. I think he coached up a lot of guys. I want to see what Dorian Finney-Smith has to offer. Remember, he had some pretty hot games in the playoffs. I love Reggie Bullock. I know it seems like I had some shots. I mean, that's because of the Atlanta series. He was making some real blunders, but no, I love him. I love Reggie Bullock. I think Spencer Dinwiddie, it seems like he's taking a little bit of a step back. Christian Wood is talented. I know he's coming off the bench, so I think he could terrorize some bench units. But if Luka goes down, that's not even a playing team.
Yeah. Yeah. And for MVP, for the most part, I mean, Westbrook won it as a 6 seed. You got to be like a top 3 seed.
Now,
And that's why, to me, it's Fugazi. I got Joel Embiid winning it this year. He's coming second. He's got really close to it. I think they're going to get voter fatigue with Jokic. I still think they might have voter fatigue with Giannis. And then the Sixers, to me, regular season-wise, I'm at least high on them. I think they win 50-plus games. I think it's a very real possibility they're the 1 seed, maybe even 2 seed. And I think if Joel just stays healthy, that'll be enough for him to win the MVP. Let's move on to the next GM survey conclusion. The Golden State Warriors, the most fun team to watch in the NBA, said for real or Fugazi.
Yeah, you know what? I got to go with Fugazi. I'm sorry. No, they're great. They've been great. But to your point, I think there may be a little bit of Warriors fatigue, even after they went bad for 2 years, right? Like, listen, Steph's amazing. I was there at the Garden when he broke the record.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. I like Jordan Poole a lot. I think they've made a home for Wiggins. Wiseman, who knows what we're gonna get from him this year. Moody's looking good. So I like them, and I like the way they play. And no one's gonna believe this, but because I give Ja Morant a lot of smack. I think he just does a lot of weird things on Twitter.
Yeah.
But Memphis be rocking, man.
They fun as hell to watch, bro. I love Memphis games, man. I love watching Memphis. That was my squad, bro. Yeah,
like they be rocking. Like
they vibe, man. They're a vibe, bro. Their characters. I like how they sell it. I know people, and I know Ja's been pretty annoying a lot of people on Twitter lately. He's kind of becoming a villain on Twitter, but I think it's a good thing. They're young, they're exciting, they talk shit. Young, I love that.
And they be balling though.
Yeah, and it's cool to see a team that has the same vibe as their city. Like Memphis and the Grizzlies, they go hand in hand. They have taken on the personality of that city, and I love that. And that's a reason why we fell in love with the 90s Knicks, because the 90s Knicks, to me, were just everything in New York.
Yeah,
it's 100%. It's kind of hard to match that vibe. And Memphis, to me, I don't know what it is, man, but when they're on, I gotta watch. I love the Warriors though. The Warriors, I love. They're like second to me because I do like the way the ball moves. Steph at any time, if Steph goes off, that's the most fun basketball you could watch. Honestly,
Timberwolves should have beat Memphis though. Like I've never seen a team beat themselves so bad than what the Timberwolves did.
Bro, I have no faith. I have no faith in the Timberwolves, man. I think the Timberwolves are gonna be an absolute dumpster fire this year. I'm not high on them at all.
For real?
Yeah, man.
Oh, I'm actually kind of high on the Timberwolves this year.
Are you?
You listen, man. I know he got in some mess. I love Anthony Edwards.
I love Anthony Edwards too. But the combination of what they put together does not really make sense to me on the offensive end. And then defensively, I think they'll be okay. But I don't know, man. And the personalities too, Gobert with Anthony Edwards. Cat has to play the 4 now.
Yeah.
And I think he's better when he's aggressive, going to the hoop and being a beast inside. He could shoot. He won an NBA 3-point contest. I'm not worried about his perimeter game. I just feel like this is set up to be a disaster.
I think Gobert anchoring that defense is going to be really good for them. I think as we talk about people taking the next leap, I think Anthony Edwards is he wants more of a leadership role. He's going to do it. I'm a little worried about, Cat had some serious health issues. So I'm a little worried about him on that front. I want, where's Waldo? Where's D'Lo? I need D'Lo to find himself. But I don't know, man. Like they played some good ball last year, and I think that adding Gobert is going to be helpful for them.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next GM survey conclusion. The Raptors have the best home court advantage. This is so Fugazi. I love Toronto, man. Come on. Listen, this might be the Knicks homer in me. There's no place like the Garden. I don't give a damn. When the Knicks are good, there is no place like Madison Square Garden. It sounds different. The building rocks different. It feels different. I don't care what anybody says. There is no home court like Madison Square Garden. You might have those years when like the Thunder were really good, where that building gets loud. You might have your years where when the Raptors were good, that building gets loud. Or Milwaukee or Utah, those buildings get, but there's no vibe like Madison Square Garden. To me, the Knicks will always have the best home court. You can call me a homer. I don't care. Said, what do you think? For you or for Fugazi?
So when I read it, I immediately thought about Denver and the altitude. And
that's also an advantage as well.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, if anybody has the best home court advantage, it's Denver.
That's smart
because they sit there and play up there in that altitude. And I agree with you that Milwaukee, in the playoffs, man, they got that whole square, and it's like it's insane.
The Deer District. Well, I'll give Toronto credit for this because Toronto started that with Jurassic Park.
You're right.
They were the first team I see to do that. So
Milwaukee, I don't know, man. One of them years, I was like, "Yo, how many people are out there?" You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Toronto, man. I will say this: they their home court does help them because when they was in Tampa, they was out here looking trash. So.
Yeah. And I like the Toronto Raptors fan base. I'm not going to front. I've been on a few Raptor spaces. It started off rough. I'm not going to lie. But we've come around, and they're a good group of people.
The Raptors have an aggressive, let's use the word aggressive, fan base. Don't sleep on the Portland Trailblazers fan base. Okay, like you don't want. They have
underrated
on fire.
Yeah,
they have
Portland
Trailblazers fire for a few days.
But they're nice though. Like they talk trash in a really nice way. They weren't nice to you. No, okay. Well, I'm on the other side of the Blazers Twitter.
You're on a good side with them. You got to, you got to end. I didn't have it in, and I was trying to get Anthony Simons, and they were like, "F his couch." They were all pitchforks were out, bro. Like, and then what's funny about them though, I will say to your point about being nice, because if I don't like somebody, like I'm muting you, even if I don't follow you. They come to KCDA, they come to the live from the Mecca.
Let's go.
Still, like they'll pull up, and I'll be like, "Hey guys!" Like, word up.
All right, let's move on to the final one. CP3 is the NBA's best leader. Said for real or Fugazi?
So this is interesting, right? Because when I read it, I did go with Fugazi, but I think I have to say it's for real. But the reason why I went with Fugazi is, before CP3 went to OKC, everybody was talking about him. He was the worst contract in the league. Can't stay healthy, et cetera, et cetera. We saw Houston. Like, we weren't viewing him in this leadership lens. And then, obviously, he took OKC to the playoffs, and they looked great. And then he gets to Phoenix. But Phoenix was already ascending. They had that 8-0 bubble. Like, they were ascending. So that's why I was like, man, I feel like this is a little bit of recency bias. But look, we wanted him for that same reason, for his leadership. And when I think about it, I don't have somebody I could point to that's better, right? Outside of Steph Curry, clearly, and I just think that Steph has just a way with that Warriors team, man. He gets buy-in, he gets respect. But no, I'm gonna go for real on this one. I'm
going to say slightly Fugazi because I do think you could make a case for CP3. I'll give you two names right now. I think Giannis is up there. Giannis stay in Milwaukee. That's a small market. That's a market he could have easily left or planning to leave. You never really hear any drama coming from that organization. He never really makes a statement in the media that has you like, what the hell is going on? There's nothing coming out of Milwaukee that raises my eyebrows, and everybody seems to like him. He seems very easy to get along with, and a lot of people think he's the best player in the league. So Giannis is up there for me. CP3 is up there for me. You said Steph, who I would mention. And then I think Dame as well. Speaking of Portland Trailblazers, I think you have to give some to Dame at least. He gets a lot of flack. Last season, he got a lot of flack for, potentially wanting to leave Portland after everything they put him through. But, he's always been ride or die for Portland. Everybody would always ask him, Dame, you leaving? He's like, no, I'm not going anywhere. Stop asking me. And the whole loyalty thing, a lot of people would throw like, oh, he always has to say he's loyal. Well, he has to say he's loyal because you keep questioning his loyalty. Of course he has to keep saying he's loyal. Yeah. So Dame
did bring some of that on himself. Not this past offseason, but the one before that.
Previous,
when he was tweeting. Listen, Twitter fingers will get you in trouble.
Yeah.
and he was on Instagram putting Nipsey Hussle lyrics. But I'm with you. But he's Dame's a solid dude, man.
Yeah, I'm not saying
Oakland's
he's perfect.
a solid place. So Oakland's like Brooklyn, they say. So
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like Oakland gets love. I got love for Oakland.
Yeah, I'm not saying Dame's perfect. I would say Giannis is probably the best leader in my opinion in the NBA, but I think you got to put Dame in the conversation, CP3 and Steph as well.
Yeah, Steph got to get there. I want all the love for Steph. I know that people been hating on Steph. I didn't know people were hating on Steph. I was confused.
How? Why? Why? What? If you hate on, like, what makes you happy, people? What's make you happy?
I love Steph.
I love Steph too. And now it's time to put this episode to sleep. Said, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it,
man. Yo, my mic is getting in the way of my swag. You know what I'm saying? Look,
hey,
you know what I mean? This is from what's the name of that movie with Adam Sandler? The NBA joint.
The one uninterrupted just recently. With
I can't remember
Gomez.
Yeah, well, you know who it was. So look, he had this hoodie on in the movie because he went to Temple in the movie, and I went to Temple. So
he went to Temple.
Yeah. So this is our dorms. Like, this is our freshman dorms, Johnson and Harwick. So
I didn't know that.
I was in there. My wife was in there. We used to call it like the PJs because we had no AC.
That's dope. Hustle. The movie's called Hustle.
That's
what it's
called. Yes.
It's called Hustle.
Good movie. Shout out to Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is Dolan J. Trump. Make Knicks great again. So he got new merch.
I love it.
We got some KCDA merch coming, so I mean,
where can people follow you?
Yeah,
where can people follow you on Twitter and so they can join your spaces and all that?
Yeah, man, just follow me at Cedric Shine, CEDRICSHINE. KCDA is it's Knicks chat the day after, so whenever there's a Knicks game, the next day at noon, we have our Twitter space. That's myself, Julito McCollum from the Wire, and I Hate Sean from the Knicks Wall, and then on Hoop Spaces, myself and Sean with a W do live from the Mecca with Jeff Johnson from MSG, and we do that weekly, typically on Wednesdays. That fluctuates because of the Knicks schedule.
Dope. And shout out to Hoop Spaces. Chris is dope and his
amazing dude.
Yeah, amazing. All right, well, if you want to follow the Dime, you can on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the Dime NBA. I'm Josh Rodriguez at Josh_Rodriguez_. Until next week, I'll have another guest. Enjoy the rest of preseason. Peace.